Where has the Barra Mustang been has been a very common question I've seen pop up on the channel, and I feel like I do owe you guys an explanation. If you aren't familiar with this build, Colette was driving my GT350, it burned down. Rather than just writing the car off, I just said, hey, what a great opportunity to put an Australian 4-liter Ford engine with a giant turbo on it. It made really good power, but the car never really worked right, and it's one of those things where I knew it would probably take weeks of diag to get the car to work how it was intended. I knew that that wouldn't make good content, so I was like, when we get a lull, when we have some time, that's when we can dive into it. Now let me explain to you what's been going on with this car. So this thing's a bad, right? Makes 1,000 horsepower, so never really had an issue with power. But the car kind of scared me to drive for two reasons. One, the suspension tire setup, which I think we actually have figured out and addressed now. Two, it has a mind of its own when it comes to shifting. It's a sequential gearbox, it's a PPG sequential, and when you go to shift to sequential, there's an ignition cut that allows the transmission to change gears, but sometimes it wouldn't initiate the cut, which would make it not change gears, and it would basically be as if the car was clutch kicking itself when you try to shift, staying in the same gear, which is like terrifying when you have a 1,000 horsepower car that has a mind of its own. Two theories for why this may be happening. One, you might notice it's like vibrating like insane. I think either there's an issue mechanically inside the gearbox or something is going on with the software. Maybe the vibrations or harmonics are disturbing the electronic signal that tells it to cut. Quite honestly, I think there's two independent problems going on, but first, the easiest thing to address is the mechanical issue. So I'm gonna put the car up in the air and see if we can tell where the harmonics are coming from. Could be the engine not being balanced properly, could be the clutch, could be the transmission. I don't know, but I just want to take time and work through the issue, bless you, to see if we can figure out what's actually going on. It does kind of sound like the pilot bearing's kind of loud. So maybe, hopefully, it's clutch related, because that would be the easiest of all the things to solve. I don't predict to find any conclusive evidence from this, but the first step is the good old-fashioned. Where's that sound coming from?
Somewhere in there. I
know it's not the drive shaft because it does a free revving. In my mind, either trans, clutch, or motor. Hopefully we can tell by vibrating, but honestly the vibrations pass through everything so much that we'll see. Already. Imagine that's all it was. No, there's definitely a lot going on. Inspection cover. So, you lean it towards motor, trans, or clutch?
Like clutch. I don't hear anything crazy like from the motor side, but it's kind of hard to tell.
If everything around the clutch is getting loose.
Yeah. I'd like to go back down and like see if you feel the vibration on the valve cover. It's just so weird to me. Like 4,500 RPM, it's like it's a earthquake. 5,000 RPM, butter smooth. Like it goes from not being able to hold the shifter to like normal. Yeah. Which tells me like it's I mean, I guess it could still be a clutch thing. Yeah. It's something spinning. So I guess next step is pull the trans, see if we can run it with the clutch still on, like maybe with one of the tool things in there. And then maybe we could try to run it without the clutch on, but just the flywheel. But that would, I guess that would only tell us if there's like a clutch balancing issue, if the flywheel has an issue, obviously. If you don't remember, this car, like, this is not a new thing with this car either. We had to weld the flywheel. Well, not weld the flywheel, but weld the bolts to the flywheel. It's very common actually on these engines to have harmonic issues. So it could be something along the lines of that, maybe exaggerated if the motor wasn't balanced properly. But we had to weld the flywheel bolts to the flywheel to prevent them from backing out.
What if maybe like a weld broke or something and one of them started backing out?
I think it's been like this the whole time.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I feel like all the crazy vibrations are either causing trigger issues or not allowing the transmission to flat shift the way it should. Or maybe it's something wrong inside the trans. I guess we'll know instantly when we pull the trans if it still vibrates.
The trans still shift like normally?
The trans will shift if you don't flat shift it. But the whole point of the sequential, you're supposed to be able to ignition cut and flat shift through the gears.
Yeah.
But like when it's just high RPM and high vibrations, it doesn't initiate the shift cut. So I'm thinking maybe it's something to do with the harmonics or like interrupting signals. I honestly don't know. But the vibration's annoying as so if we could fix that, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
If you notice Super in the background of this video, I'm excited to let you know that today, technically you guys won't see it until the next video, the winner of this Supra is coming to take hand delivery here at the compound. Something special that we like to do, show people around, let them experience the car in person before we ship it back to them. Also a reminder that today is your last day to enter for a chance to win an all expenses paid trip to the LZ World Tour stop of your choice, anywhere internationally that we do it. Doesn't matter, you and a friend, all expenses paid. There's a mini giveaway. Short period of time, high chances to win. Head over to LZMFG or drifthq.com, pick something up. Every $5 you spend gets you entered for a chance to win. Link is in the description.
So, well, taking out some of these trans bolts, I noticed there's a couple missing and a couple of them are just loose, so might be a part of our problem.
Just vibrating so much, it's backing the bell housing bolts out.
There was, this bolt was missing, this bolt was missing, this one and this one were missing. There's 4 bolts missing. Only thing was these 2 and these 2. Well, this one was here, but it was loose, like finger tight. It was backing out. A lot of thread play in it. So when Mike started the car, the clutch looked like it had some movement to it, but it's kind of hard to tell because of how many marks are in the clutch. So we're gonna pull the bell housing off and see if the clutch is still aligned correctly and go from there.
Let's see if those welds are still holding too.
Yeah. So looks like our clutch bolts are pretty loose. There's so
Wow.
It's moving so much that it's opening out these holes. The
little dowel holes.
The little dowels.
Yeah, you can see they're like way bigger than they should be. Dude, if that thing came off inside the bell housing, that would be
Not good.
not good at all. Say bye to your legs.
Yeah.
They're all like
Oh,
finger tight.
that one's kind of tight. That one's not tight.
It's still like lined up with.
With the mark, which is weird. It's
Yeah.
kind of the right.
So I came back very excited to hear that we actually did indeed find a problem. More than likely, the clutch and transmission being loose is resulting in the vibrations and probably the shifting issues. To rule out one last thing, we're gonna start it with the clutch off and just the flywheel on, just to see if there's still crazy harmonics. Then that would point to it being more engine related. But I'll probably just end up ordering a clutch setup from Australia that's made to fit the actual locking plate, so we don't need to weld the bolts to the flywheel again. We might need a new bell housing because some of those bolts and threads have gotten sketchy from being loose. You're not supposed to start cars without a clutch because they rev very, very freely. I don't think it will run away rev. I've never done this before. Have you done this?
Huh?
Have you done this before?
No.
It should be fine, right?
I think so. I mean, we started with the clutch on. I mean, there's.
This is like a hella light flywheel.
Let's
I can't wait to rev it.
let's run it for like 4 seconds, and if it's sketch, turn it off.
Yeah. Well, you gotta go up in the air so you can hear if there's vibrations under there.
Oh, I got to put my face right next to it.
Ready? Yo, light flywheel on a Barra sounds sick. It sounded rad, right?
Yeah.
I think this is me. Comment below. Do you think we should put a external dump on this? This is one of the cars I feel like needs a screamer. You guys fight with me on the other cars where I don't want them. This car just sounds so anticlimactic without a screamer. We're like, that sounds pretty rad. If at high RPM it sounded like that instead of what it sounded like before. Oh, did it vibrate?
Not as much.
But it still vibrated?
Yeah, I mean it's gonna have some.
Yeah, like clearly a lot at that RPM than other RPMs.
Yeah, well you could feel it a lot with the clutch on.
Interesting.
But like now you can't really feel it.
I wonder if it's worth me getting into their balancer too. I don't like to talk badly about companies, but there's 2 brands of balancers for this engine, and the one that I have on here people have warned me against, so it might be worth me changing to the other one just to rule that out as well.
Let's take the downpipe and flip it up. That'll get you the sound you want.
I had to hang my head out the window because it was getting smoked out so bad in here.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's coming through the.
Yeah, it's going right through the transom because it's open downpipe. Originally, I thought the car was going to be down for a while because we were going to be having to take apart the whole transmission, send that back, get it inspected, maybe even take apart the engine. Good news is we're not doing that. The bad news is we still need to wait for a new clutch to show up. So this car will be on hold while we get a new clutch sent out to us. In the meantime, I do have a couple other things I'm going to start tweaking on this thing. That way, once the clutch is in, get it all back together and it's like a brand new car. If you saw the title, there's another part to this video, and we'll get into that now. As you can see, the R32 is back. It's white. If you remember, I unwrapped it. The green wrap, as cool as it was and as cool as the color it was, it definitely did not hide all of the terrible paint and bodywork that the car had. It's never been the cleanest car, and I guess being my first ever right-hand drive car, I wanted something cheap. The bones were not great, and the livery kind of hit it, so once I put the wrap on it, it really showed how rough it was. Once I peeled the wrap off, it even showed how much rough it was, even more than I thought it was rough, I think, of course. But luckily for once, we had a pretty big window of time open for Ray and Josh to do the bodywork and paint this car proper. And I'm gonna bring Ray in to talk about it because this is probably the craziest, most in-depth paint job we've done on any car. And even though it may just look white, it's gangster. All right, so to start off, this whole process started with picking the right shade of white. Believe it or not, there's 2 different shades of white. There's QM1, which is R33 white, and then there's 326, which is R32 white. This car had already been repainted, and I was trying to keep the paint as close to the color that it was because the engine bay was already painted, and it was easier to try to get closer to the engine bay than try to make this car. So I don't really know where I'm going with this. Anyway, there are 2 different colors. I chose QM1, so this car is now R33 white over the original 326, which is a little bit more yellow. Obviously, engine bay isn't like a perfect match, but I mean, we're like really nitpicking hairs.
Yes.
The biggest thing with this car is how bad the bodywork was, especially in the fiberglass, and I'll let Ray tell you about the process that this freaking hood took for him to do.
Yeah, so anything that was fiberglass in this car, which is a lot, it's like the hood, the fenders, bumpers, side skirts, I mean, the spoilers, like it was all pretty wavy. So we basically had to do a process where it was like sand it all down basically as far as we could with like 80 grit, and then just start doing body work over everything and blocking it like by hand, you know, just like getting everything as straight as possible. And then we would prime it with like a heavy 2K primer. It's a really good primer, like very hardness like resin. So then you would block that with 180, and then after that, then you would then prime it again with another 2K primer, and then sand it again by blocking it. So it took a lot, because like the whole kit was done this way. So it's like, imagine you're doing body work basically 3 times on one item just to get it straight. So we did that process on pretty much the whole car just to get it to where it's at.
And I feel like the livery really hid how bad this hood was, but when I had it wrapped green, it drove me nuts because it literally just looked like Wave City. Like you drop a rock in a pond, that's how the hood looked. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong too, didn't you almost pretty much go down to bare metal on a lot of the car?
Yeah, we like the quarter panels, we end up having to kind of take them down pretty far because there was a lot of old body work on there, and we needed to be able to see what we could pull to kind of get it done right the best way we could. So we took it to metal, pull as much of the metal out as we could so we could level it out, and then we went back over and did the body work and prime and everything else.
This is a different roof wing. The old one that I had didn't fit at all. You probably wouldn't notice that on video. This is a universal molding. I don't know if you know the number of this off the top of your head, but I'm gonna see if we can figure it out and put it in the video, because figuring out the moldings for this car has been like the biggest challenge. You can't get new moldings for R32 sedans. You can for R32 coupes. So the rear one, I think, Jeff got it nailed perfectly. Doesn't Jeff have an R32 sedan?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
But the front one we've been having a hard time with, and I think we got the right seal. We're just waiting for it to come in. Yep. Once we get them on the car, we'll confirm with you guys. That way, if you have an R32 sedan, you're looking to replace them, kind of tricky. Other than that, I know the wing kind of fit like junk. You guys worked that a bit.
Yep.
Looks pretty dang good. And we're talking like, we'll put photos of the process over this, but this was not just like a scuff and shoot, even though it probably could have been. Yeah. This is one of those cars where I feel like it's one of the best builds that has been with the channel for a really long time, but the quality of the car didn't like match the level of performance. Like 850 horsepower, reliable, puts down power well, AC, massive smiles on faces, old logo, new V-Spec 2 seats, all the cool stuff, but the paint was just like, so I'm stoked that Ray got me looking right now. Yeah. A couple little still final things to do, like get the glass moldings in, pop the Ganador glass in, but the biggest thing, the wheels. I got to swap those out. These are just the paint rollers, but we got some new fancy ones coming, and I'm hoping that they show up today so we can show you guys them. Yeah,
the body work was definitely one of the more intricate parts in this car that took the most time, just because of how that process to straighten everything out was. So it's just no way around it. You're not gonna speed through that. You have to physically, block everything by hand, and then, like for example, the quarter panels, it will be sometimes where I'll be like, this looks good, but I'm not happy with it, so I'll redo it and get it done to where I was good with it. So that would add a couple more days to it. But I would say this is one of those cars where it's like I would say a mild restoration kind of build. I wouldn't say it's a full restoration, it's because I would say more original items would need to be on the car for that. But yeah, I would say it's like a good mild restoration. Like we put a lot of effort into everything. Nothing was like, no shortcuts. Like for example, a little detail here, we added like a rubber seal here. So like this isn't touching the paint here at all. So whenever vibration happens, that's not gonna be an issue there. For example, like another detail that you might never notice, the hinges. So they were really rusty. So what we did was we took everything off, we sandblasted some of the hinges that we redid, and then we sanded on the car as well, and then we did like steel it to protect that. So it's like pretty well protected compared to like the factory stuff, how it was. So like that's like a detail that's like, you might not really see, but it take time to do that and think about how to do it.
When Ray is saying we, he's referring to Fiberglass Poppy, AKA Josh. Josh has a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this car too.
Yeah, we both put a lot of time into it. All the trim's been blacked out as well. A lot of stuff that we could, kind of refurbish, like for even like stuff like the, like the mesh here, that was all blacked out again. Yeah, there's still some details to work out as well. It's not like fully perfect yet, but yeah, it's a pretty good one. One that we learned a lot for the next one to take on to the next car to do. So this was one of those where like we picked up a lot of things from this build. Yeah.
We're trying to build like a menu of paint jobs, right? Where we have, it's tough. I was gonna say the CRX is like a 1, but that car came out so freaking good. Yeah. But basically like establish our levels so we can build out the costs associated with getting a car to this level versus say like the green S15 or the CRX, which were a bit quicker. Green S15 again, it's hard. Like I feel like you haven't done like a bad car yet. The C4 is another good example. I feel like that one is like maybe one step below this. That car came out so freaking good.
Yeah, yeah. I will put this above that for sure.
I think the only thing on this car, which has absolutely nothing to do with you, Ray, that like I'm still not sold on, the hood I feel like is a part of the car in my brain. The front fenders came like halfway through the era of this car, and naked without a livery, I feel like they kind of look out of place. I've never been a fan of like Z-tune fenders or fenders that like bulge out. So I feel like if there's anything that I were to change down the line body kit wise on the car, it would be maybe just putting factory GTR front fenders on it. Almost went full GTR front end, like hood, bumper, fenders, deleted the kit. But I feel like the car would have kind of lost its presence and like the look that I attached to it in my head. And I guess the only other like, the big thing is the livery gonna come back? I really didn't like the livery because it was so loud, wow, look at me, to where like, it attracted a lot of attention that I didn't want. Maybe a little more subtle livery. I like the idea of like trying to create something that was inspired by the original kind of aura and vibe of the car, but that's a little less flashy, maybe similar shapes, but subtle pinstriping. And I think once I pull the wheels out and you guys can see kind of the overall like vision. Oh, new front windshield too. Stoked about that. That's my squirrel brain right now. I had that stashed up in my attic for like ever. Did you get that? Did you get that?
Yeah, we picked that up.
It was kind of ridiculous how like, how we got that up there, right?
It was up there, yeah.
Imagine like in your house when you have like one of those little attic doors that you pull down and there's stairs. Imagine having like 4 JDM windshields stashed up there and trying to get them up and down the stairs without breaking. Only 2 lasted without breaking. One of them was this one, so we're good. Now I love the drag stance that I had with the T's on the car. Honestly, pretty perfect, and I may miss it. But seeing as the car kind of got a whole new vibe and lots of little old logo parts and things to just make it that much more special, I thought doing a real special set of wheels would be cool. And this is the first time that I've seen these in person. They've been in the works for quite some time. The grand reveal. Whew. Damn, that finish was sick. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but damn. I was on the fence for so long about what colorways to go for with this car. I really, really loved when I had my white Supra on the gunmetal and bronze lift drag wheels. So this is kind of like inspired by that, but with old logo LMGT2s. Probably would never buy these wheels just because they're so expensive now, but I lucked out and happened to get them in the trade where I traded the crashed Porsche. So I own them for next to nothing, and they're gonna get to live a life on my R32. But only 2 of them came in, so I don't know if I'm gonna get to mount them today, or we might just be mounting the fronts to the rears. It's also really cool because I didn't need to rebuild them into crazy specs. I need to run a super high offset wheel because I run basically like a 275 drag slick on a stock body R32 sedan, which is toy.
It is tight.
This might be the rear. The lip looks kind of fat.
It looks pretty.
This looks like a 9.
Pretty thick.
Yeah. Mountain to tire time. Yeah.
Larry Hoover's on this one.
Yeah, this is, it's definitely a wide tire for the rim. I probably could have built these wider, but I just really liked how it looked before. It's like a fat drag stance, so yeah. We're doing the same thing. Well, I think my vision was executed well. I feel like in retrospect I could have gone a little bit wider, but I don't even know what the deal is with getting like custom barrels and lips. Well, I guess it's 2-piece, so it would just be a full custom.
It'd be a lot more. It'd be a lot more annoying than just getting a 3-piece wheel.
But it's cool.
It looks dope.
Yeah, she's a little thick, but I guess it's similar to what the TE was, because the TE was a 9 with the same tire. But it's gonna look hella drag. Friends don't let friends have shiny tires. Friends make friends use satin tire shine. Because it doesn't shine. It's satin. Prius. job where the engine and like the car is already dialed. So it's like literally just like once wheels and tires are built on it, go drive and have fun.
Yeah.
But usually when a car is getting painted, we still have to build the car. This is like a weird kind of exciting for me. It's fun for me to look at this because this was like my first, I would say, like legit build. Like I remember doing this in the garage, doing these fender wells and spraying it all over the walls in my house, and I was so excited. I think this was the first car that I powder coated the subframe. I powder coated it candy red, which was a kind of a big regret because I learned that the candy powder coat stuff tends to chip easier. Spray painted calipers that I did and brushed the letters by hand. It still looks pretty good, but to today's standards of what we build, it could be elevated a notch.
She's just a ripper.
Yep. Now, which holes do I put it in?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm hitting the lower, but I don't remember if that just be like that, and I tighten it, and then it hang tight.
Yeah, that is
pretty
friggin'
crazy.
awesome.
It's dark.
Yeah.
It's weird seeing dark wheels on this car. It's gonna like completely transform the look.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see it out in the sun. I'm not like super sold on it right now, but I think the other changes I'm gonna do to the car will kind of tie it all together. It looks hella fat.
Yes, yes.
I'm stoked to have this thing back. I know you may not get or see the whole vision, but trust me, when I add a few more pieces that will tie in these wheels, including the front wheels, I think it'll all make sense. I'm stoked to have this car back. Hopefully the window seal comes in soon and the front wheels show up tomorrow, so maybe I can get this thing back on the road tomorrow.
When you said, when you said, when you said,
That was real weird. I'm just gonna, we can just cut that whole thing out. Friends don't let friends have shiny tires. Friends make friends use satin tire shine. Three of them.